to sort this out on my own. Without the council. And without you.
All right, everybody. Give you a quick update on where we're at right now with what's going on. I'll try and stay in the light charts.
Tim Pool gets swatted live while he's on the air, so we will definitely be starting off the show talking about that. So strap yourselves in. There's going to be some video, and we'll actually see what happened on IRL when it happened. In other news, a series of speeches and reactions rock Washington, D.C. as more people come through and talk about the absolute horror of 1/6 and everything that happened with that. But we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. Actually, we're going to talk a lot about that. That's another major chunk of the show, but hopefully we'll get through everything else here because there's some other important stuff we have to talk about here. Kazakhstan opens up into open revolt, so we'll talk just a bit about what's happened there and what could possibly be construed as an actual insurrection. And Lori Lightfoot stands up to the teachers union in Chicago, in Machine Politics Chicago. That'll only turn out well, I promise. It is going to be all this and more. You're just mad you can't date me. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.
I am the Senate.
Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and we've got a little bit of a scattershotted show today, too. It's going to be a little bit weird, but if you see people, by the way, today, I didn't say it on the intro, but if you see people, the numbers are going up, but there are no new voices in the chat. Do remember, today is live chat day, so I've got the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat throughout the week here, and this will be the day that I say the special thank you to all the names on this list. And we'll go through some of the live chat today, too, and just see what it is that you guys have to say about the stuff that we're seeing here. Of course, that's how we close out our Friday, with a special thank you and a special segment just to dedicate it to you, the viewer. So come back out and join us, you guys. That's going to be a great time. Make sure you get some of those last-minute messages in, and if your message is sufficiently stupid, spicy, or bigoted, it will raise the intellectual level of this program, and of course, we'll have to get read on the air. So come back and hang out with us, especially towards the end of the program here. All right, we got a lot to get into, so we got to get started with this right away here, you guys. And partially, I'm still, I think, a little bit jet lagged because I'm still looking back and like, 7 o'clock, I don't want to be out of bed yet. But let's get into it. Let's get started, shall we? Before we do, make sure you guys head over, check out, and bookmark TurnsandPagesProductions.com. Turns and Pages Productions will be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs, carrying great shows such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the new upcoming Britt and Sean Hickman project, so go check that out. The R-Rated Conservative, who is back to YouTube, go check him out. Also, the Porch Boys and the Daily Ignoramus. So go check out all those shows. They are great friends of mine. I always enjoy seeing all of them. A new show will be joining us at launch as well, so come back and check that out for details as well. And it's going to be a great time, so go bookmark the page. New fundraiser coming soon. All right, looking in at the Dow spent most of the day down, closing down below once again here. The futures are climbing, and a lot of this is going to be looking at what's going to be happening with the jobs report that's going to be coming up here. Within probably about now, the jobs report is going to be releasing, so we might get some breaking news on that as we go. But on the futures, on the Dow right now, down to 36,236.47 points. Looking in at your Bitcoin, the Bitcoin is at 42,293.30. People are calling this a Bitcoin crash, but this is kind of just a Bitcoin holding steady at a point that's lower than they thought that it was going to be at this point here. So I'm not seeing a crash. If it really does start to crash, and they're not just saying Bitcoin either, they're saying all of crypto is crashing. If it is going to crash, I'm going to go back and buy more of it. I'm going to buy it while it's on sale, because I'll get it at a point where hopefully it'll only go up. So we'll see what happens with that and where that goes. Looking in at the industrials, copper has turned downwards, but aluminum has turned upwards. Steel remains on a downtrend right now. Looking in at your individual plays, all copper plays are down. From bare bright copper wire to brass shells are all down. All steel plays are actually down too, all the way from conduit steel all the way down to stainless steel. Everything is in the red right now. Looking in at the aluminum, siding is down, aluminum copper fin is down, radiators are down, cans are up, sheet aluminum is down, rims are down. So basically it's just cans that's holding the upswing right now, because everything else is looking like that's in the red too. Also, electric motors out of copper are down, ballasts are down, lead is down, batteries are down, catalytic converters continue to rise up, compressors are up, alternators are down, carbide is down, hard drives and motherboards are both up, low-grade boards and PC towers are also up, power supplies are down. Changing in the industrial markets, looking in at what could be happening both with what's valuable in your life, in your garage, in your house, or whatever else. Also, what could be coming back out of the industrials, out of the manufacturing. So we'll see what happens there. Let's grab one from IBD for you guys. Reading from Investors Business Daily. I don't need to have the archived one. It doesn't look like, but I saved it for just in case. You are not logged in. Fuck off. Alright, from IBD, on-air production, of course. Dow Jones Futures jobs report looms, GME stock spikes on NFT and crypto plans. From Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures were little changed early Friday, while S&P 500 Futures and NASDAQ Futures rose slightly, with the December jobs report due before the open. The stock market rally on Thursday tried to rebound, but feeble gains turned slim losses on the major indices as Apple stock and Tesla retreated. The 10-year Treasury yield continued to climb, nearing pandemic highs, while crude oil prices rose solidly. Banks and energy stocks continued to advance as well. Outside of these two areas, Arista, Zim Integrated Shipping, Dow Jones Component, Home Depot, Taiwan Semiconductor, and Hilton Hotels are 5 stocks worth watching. All are holding up reasonably well. Some are near possible entries, while others are potentially actionable now, though investors should be cautious about any buys with the stock market rally under pressure. Meanwhile, Apple retreated again, closing below its 21-day moving average for the first time in 3 months. Tesla fell below its 50-day moving average. Finally, meme stocks DWAC and GameStop rallied on the news. Trump stock SPAC partner Digital World Acquisition Group surged in Thursday's session as the former president gets ready to launch his social media site next month. And you can see that he's up in the news again, because I do think that there's a level of people who are terrified over the fact that it's going to happen. GME stock skyrocketed overnight as the video game retailer launched its unit to enter the NFT and cryptocurrencies markets. Tesla and ANET are on the IBD leaderboard. Zim stock, Arista, and Tesla are on the IBD 50. On the jobs report, the Labor Department will release the December jobs report at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Economists expect to see non-farm payrolls rising by 400,000. In November, payrolls just rose by just 210,000, but the separate household survey showed a big employment jump, driving the jobless rate down to 4.2%. Wall Street forecasts an unemployment dip to 4.1% in December. Economists also expect the labor force participation rate to nudge up to 61.9% as workers slowly re-enter the workforce. That participation rate may be the key number in December jobs report as workers balance Omicron concerns versus dwindling pandemic savings. How quickly and how many missing workers return to the labor force is a key factor for wage hikes and longer-term inflation pressure. How fast the Federal Reserve will tighten policy as 2022 goes on. On the futures, Dow futures were about even versus fair value. S&P 500 futures rose 0.1%, and NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 0.2%. Crude oil rose just slightly. The December jobs report is sure to move the Treasury yields and Dow futures before the open and beyond. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So that's what we see coming off of that. Let's grab one briefly from Seeking Alpha. NASDAQ, Dow Jones, S&P 500 futures tick higher ahead of big payrolls report from Kim Khan. And this is just a bullet point to some of the stuff that's happening here in the morning as we go, so let's look through it. Stock index futures are rising after another down session yesterday, but direction at the open will be dictated by the December jobs report. NASDAQ futures, S&P futures, and Dow futures are up about 0.2%. The 10-year Treasury yield is off about 1 basis point to 1.72%, following a weekly rise of about 20 basis points. Economists are looking for a gain of about 450,000 payrolls, but investors will be looking past a headline number that will be influenced by seasonal factors in Omicron. Wage inflation and labor force participation will be important for investors and the Fed. A further rise in participation would be hugely significant, signaling an easing of excess labor demand, Pantheon Macro's Ian Shepherdson says. Ignore the details, look at the trends, UBS chief economist Paul Donovan says. Are more people re-entering the workforce with savings depleted and unemployment benefits back at very low levels? The incentive to work has grown. Are there jobs to go to? Clearly there are, but is restaurant and travel employment continuing in the face of the Omicron? Participation won't be coming back for older workers, but it's a puzzle. Why younger workers are still on the sidelines? No, it's not. They think that they're showing the world something, and they're going and showing the world while living with mommy and daddy. That's not a puzzle. Former Fed Governor Randall Kroszner said on Bloomberg. In Washington, the Supreme Court will hear arguments against vaccine mandates starting today, by the way. So we'll be definitely talking about that on Monday. So that's what we see coming up out of the markets. Let's start in with the big news of the day. And we're going to start by talking about somebody who I wouldn't normally be talking about on this channel, but I think this bear is actually repeating. This bear is speaking about here. So let's go start with Instagram today.
All right, everybody. Give you
All right. So Tim Pool got swatted last night. Well, he was live on the air. And I'm going to let him explain to you what happened, but this, I think, might start to affect some of the people who are in the independent movement. It's not going to affect me, obviously, but I think this is going to start to affect some people that are coming out of this. So let's listen to Tim. I can't believe I just said those words, but let's listen to Tim.
All right, everybody. Give you a quick update on where we're at right now with what's going on. I'll try and stay in the light. It started snowing, so I'll be standing in the snow. At 8:20, the police got a call that someone had shot and killed 2 people, and they were going to kill themselves. They were currently on the premises. That is false. That never happened. Obviously, we're doing a live show. We had multiple agencies. We believe 3 different agencies. We had local city cops, we had the sheriff, and we had state police here. We are lucky. We're very lucky. If you were watching the live show, while Luke was speaking around 8:51 live on Timcast IRL, you can see a police officer walk past the camera and walk out. Fortunately, our chief technical officer walked outside just down this path as the first officers arrived. They got on the bullhorn. They said, "Put your hands in the air," and he did. They made him walk up. They interacted for a few minutes. We have all the security camera footage. We're going to put it up tomorrow explaining what happened. Then another one of our producers and a show host, Brett, came out, put his hands up. Brett quickly realized, look, we're being swatted. Multiple officers came up. Then Allison, who's our chief operating officer, came out and started talking to them saying, this is not true. No one is here. No one is hurt. Several other, I think around 8 or so vehicles had pulled up. And the police were basically like, look, we understand you don't want us to go into your house without a warrant. We have these mats on the ground. Let me see if I can point at it without dropping the phone. It says, come back with a warrant. And they said, but due to exigent circumstances, we will be entering. That's why there's only 2 cops who come into the studio. Our CTO and our staff were with them the whole time, going through the house, showing them like, hey, you know, this is what's going on. And apparently Andy, our CTO, actually pulled up the live show and said, this is what's happening in that room. And they're like, well, we have to check. So they opened the door. And then one of the officers actually motioned to me, like, come out. And I'm like, no, like we're live streaming at the time. We can't do this. Now, we're really lucky we can laugh about this. If our CTO did not walk outside and down that path, and those 8 vehicles pulled up, and all of these officers came out, they would have entered the property, they would have been guns ready, thinking that somebody was shooting or something was going on. This is not just a house. This is a place of business where we have a receptionist desk, where we have editing suites, where we produce videos. And if this was just a house, police probably would have kicked the door in, and it would have been a more serious moment where we could have been seriously hurt. Ian was talking about how he was going to get up and run to the bathroom, because when we're live during the show, we don't just somber off to the bathroom, we run. We get up, we have a bathroom in the studio, and we have another bathroom. So Ian, you know, he'd get up and he'd run through the halls. If the cops walked in and they saw him running down the hallway screaming, it could have been really, really bad. We're going to be filing FOIA requests. We're going to get all the documents. We're going to be publishing this because we're not going to stand for it. We are taking security very, very seriously. That's the latest update. A big screw you to whoever did this. But I'll tell you what, we were safe and we were fortunate that this is a place of business and a swatting wouldn't work on us. It was a stupid move, and fortunately our crew was outside to calm and de-escalate the situation, which means now everyone gets to know about what happened. They get to know that you screwed up, your plan didn't work, nobody got hurt, we're just going to get more attention from it. However, I don't like that idea. I don't like making the story about us and what we're doing, but I have some concerns. If this was political, we just hosted Marjorie Taylor Greene. If this was just some sick trolling campaign or whatever, I want to know what it was. It happened live. I want you to know what it was, and we'll try and be responsible about how we put out information, because as you can probably already tell, I'm not a fan of drama. We want to make sure our shows are about topical issues, not us. We want to talk about the election. We want to talk about policing. We don't want to talk about drama with us. We'll address this because we want to prove it happened. We want to figure out who did it. Thanks for listening. I'm sorry, you guys, for dealing with more of this insanity. A special thank you to everybody who checked in on us. We're all good. I'll say it again. It's an office building. It's a place of work. The people who work here don't live here. They have houses. They live in other places. So when they do show up for a swatting, you're showing up in an office building. There's a receptionist. She's gonna be like, "Can I help you?" So for that reason, I think we were safer. So I'll leave it there. Thanks for listening to this update, and we'll have more coming soon.
So, Tim Pool got swatted. Excuse me. This changes a lot of things, I think, for a lot of people, because, people are going to start calling around. They're going to try to get people doxxed and come back out of this here. We're going into a midterm where there are people out there that say this is a can't lose. And I would be negligent to say that it's only for one side. It's not. I think there's one side that's a little bit more desperate right now because they're looking at the polls, they're looking at the generic ballot, and they're saying, oh shit, my side is going to lose, and they're going to lose handily unless we come back out and do something. And they've got this entire media apparatus that's not just laying down, crawling around friendly to them. Poole hosted Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I do think is a plant at this point, but she's also the person who gets all of these little leftoids up and riled up off of this. This could happen here. We could be sitting here watching Contemporary one morning, and, like he said, he's got a place of business. Whereas, if this were to happen here, now, mind you, strategically, and I got up today and I opened up all the blinds, which I normally don't do. Usually I've got the blinds closed up in the morning here because I have the blinds closed on me while I'm sleeping. But, this is a small place. So strategically, it would not be hard for an officer, a responding officer, to come out, look in and see me. Hey, hi, how you doing? Or, oh, hey, over there, how you doing? But I mean, if they didn't, if they went in the other direction. I mean, the door is right there, literally, that goes into the main hall. And if they come back and shoot that down, I'll probably get hit by the door shrapnel first, and then have the 45 trained on me as I'm sitting here. It is literally right there, point blank. The 45 would be pointed at me. But I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. I'm absolutely not going to stop at this point. Because that's what they're doing with this, with the SWAT. That's terrorism. They want you to know that they can stop your message and have you killed dead on air. And I'm not going to do it. I hope for this show to grow to the point where this becomes a problem at some point. I don't know if it's going to. I don't have a crystal ball. So that's what's coming up off of that. And I actually have a clip of what happened while this was happening here. So let's watch.
And they actually announced a number of times.
Yeah, the cops just walked in.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Should we? Yeah, that I was looking at my notes and I was like,
did somebody swat you?
Yep, somebody swatted us.
Did they really?
Swatted us?
Yep, somebody swatted us. So that's
How do you know?
what that
How do you
was.
know?
I have somebody texting me.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so Tim's gonna go
Wow.
take care of
So,
business.
yeah, just a police officer
stroll
entered
it in.
here, looked around because it looks like someone swatted this live broadcast here.
Glad they didn't come in here busting, man.
I'm glad, yeah, man.
I mean, that's something that's extremely dangerous, extremely reckless, because SWAT incidences have led to a lot of innocent people
Little
dying,
death.
dogs being shot, people thinking that their house is being raided by criminals defending themselves. So whoever did that and they're listening, like.
Yeah, those things, and it's a healthy penalty if you get caught swatting. That's a felony crime, and you can spend years in jail over it because the inherent risk. If a police officer, believes that
got swatted, it's confirmed.
If the police officer believes that there's who knows what they said, they could have said somebody is screaming for help,
kidnapped. Someone's kidnapped here. We need to send in
and just
police
say.
officers.
And I heard a boom. I don't
Yeah,
know
they
if you
opened that door loud.
they hit. So what if we were in here, and we saw them and we pulled the trigger on them?
Yeah.
And now we're in a shootout with the police. You can get them hurt. We can get hurt. It's crazy.
Did that
All right,
happen to you while
let's
you were on the force?
let's
Did you ever get
no,
caught?
No,
all right,
we
guys.
never got caught on that.
I'm gonna tell you guys what just happened. I just walked out of the room. The cops walked in. They walked around with flashlights. We've been swatted. I am extremely unhappy with this because I can't necessarily be mad at the officers. They were very polite, but I do not like cops coming into my house when we have mats all over the
No
place.
warrant?
They come back with a warrant.
Yeah.
And I don't know who let them in or why.
Yeah, what happened?
I understand they're here because we got swatted. A report was made that 2 people had been shot and killed, and that the gunman was threatening to hurt themselves. They didn't send a SWAT team. It was just a couple of officers. I don't want to drag them or be mean to them.
So, yeah, that's it. And Tim has to come back off of this. Now, I've had my differences with him. Absolutely. I do think he's a controlled oppo, and I think he's a gatekeeper into a bigger part of the independent media. But that doesn't mean I want something bad to happen to the fucking dude. Let him go continue to put his product out. If I don't like it, I'll try to put a different product out. That's how you combat somebody. You put a better product out. Not call the fucking police on them to say, hey, a bunch of people just got shot in this compound. Do something about it. That's how you do this. But once again, will not stop. So that's what we see off of that. All right, let's do some January 6th stuff. And let's see how hard the mainstream media is huffing the farts of the president and all the people who decided to come back out and give speeches for this. This is going to be actually a little bit entertaining. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on this today, but still, I think that we should. So starting here, The Point with Chris Cillizza. The single most important and powerful line from Joe Biden's 1-6 speech. Thank you, and have a good day. That was the most important line. But I'm sure that Chris has something else to say about that, so let's listen and see what Chris has to say. From Chris Cillizza, CNN editor-at-large. You can't love your country only when you win. Oh, fuck. Spoiler alert, I didn't pre-read this article. You have got to be fucking kidding me. You have got to be fucking kidding me right now. That's President Biden during the speech that he gave Thursday morning to commemorate the 1-year anniversary of the U.S. Selfie Fest. It's not only a memorable line, it's likely to be the one that gets repeated the most today and in the days to come, but also hugely important one if we hope to fully come to grips with what happened on January 6th and everything that led to that moment. At the heart of the line is the idea of patriotism. Remember that Donald Trump ran for president in 2016 expressly on the idea of putting America first. The idea that animated both his campaign and his 4 years at the White House was that the U.S. was exceptional in the world and that for too long American leaders have been afraid to loudly and proudly proclaim that fact, choosing instead to make America subservient to lesser countries around the world. The future doesn't belong to globalists, Trump said in a 2019 foreign policy speech at the UN. The future belongs to patriots. What makes America so special? Nothing differentiates us from the other world powers, China, Russia, more than our commitment to a peaceful transition of power every 4 years. The idea that whether your preferred candidate wins, that you A, accept the results of the presidential election as free and fair, or B, recognize the winner as the president sits at the core of who we are as Americans. You only need to go back to the 2000 election to understand the power and uniqueness of America and its commitment to the peaceful transition of power. After a 36-day interregnum, in which it wasn't clear whether Al Gore or W had been elected president, Gore conceded the election following an adverse Supreme Court ruling. That he conceded was important. How he conceded mattered even more. For the sake of our unity as people and the strength of our democracy, I offer my concession, Gore said. I also accept my responsibility, which I will discharge unconditionally, to honor the new president-elect and do everything possible to help him bring Americans together in fulfillment of that great vision that our Declaration of Independence defines and that our Constitution affirms and defends. Gore also cited the words of Stephen Douglas following a loss in 1860 in the 1860 presidential race to Abraham Lincoln. Partisan feeling must yield to patriotism. I'm with you, Mr. President, and God bless you. What Gore and Douglas understood was that this wasn't all about them. Of course, they would have rather won. Of course, they thought that they would make a better president than their opponent, but they also understood that patriotism and loyalty to the country meant shelving their personal feelings in favor of doing the right thing for the country. Biden, in answer to reporters' questions about why he didn't mention Trump during his speech, flicked at the, "Are you fucking kidding me?" He didn't mention Trump by name, he mentioned Trump in that speech. We all listened to the same speech here on this channel. It's like that sentiment. Here's a key bit. It's not about me. It's not about the vice president. It really isn't. That's the thing that bothers me the most about the sort of attitude that seems to be emerging in some degree in American politics. It's not about me. It's not about whether I'm president and she's vice president. It's about the system and someone who tries to put himself above everything. Think of it in another way. True sportsmanship isn't being gracious in victory. Anybody can do that. It's being gracious in defeat, and not just anyone can do that. The same goes for patriotism. It's easy to love the country when they elect you or give you what you want. It's a hell of a lot harder to love your country when you think that they chose the wrong person or headed down the wrong path. You ignorant, insolent little fucking prick. I can't read any more of this. I mean, this is a full-on Trump blame on every second of the word. Every word that's in this is a Trump blame and a Trump this and all that. I don't want to hear a goddamn word from you, CNN or Chris Cillizza, about who's proud to be an American when only they win. What did we watch? Do you forget recent history? What did we watch? For 4 whole years plus, because people were already disappointed in the country by the time election day rolled around, before we even looked and before the transition of power ever happened. From 11-4 on, I'm sorry, 11-9. 11-4 was this past one. From 11-9 on, we heard nothing but people telling us how much they hated this country. How much they hated the fact that people could come out and vote for somebody like Donald Trump. They weren't proud of this country. They wanted to lead this country. They want to make this country into something that it's not. So fuck you, Chris Cillizza. Fuck you. And I knew that's exactly what was coming with this. And Chris Cillizza right now is trying to whitewash and erase history. Oh no, we're proud of our country all the time. No, you are not. And you know what else? While I sit back and watch this, I walk around I'm in the industrial sector. I walk among a large amount of MAGA people on a daily basis. I work with them. I talk to them daily. I'm around them constantly. And you want to know something? They hate the houseplant-in-chief, and they're still proud to be American. I'm still proud to be American. I hated the fucking both of them. The Donald and the Biden. So no, you don't get to sit back here and tell us you can't love your country only when you win. That's exactly what these spoiled little fucking millennials right now are doing, is only loving their country when they win. So no, fuck you. From the Hill, Trump lashes out at Biden over January 6th speech. From Sarakshi Rai. Former President Trump on Thursday responded to President Biden's fiery speech on the anniversary of the January 6th Selfie Fest, saying that the remarks alluding to Trump's role in the riot deepened political divides in the country. The Donald, in a statement released just as Biden wrapped his speech in Statuary Hall, called the remarks political theater. Yeah, they kind of were, actually. This political theater is just a distraction for the fact that Biden has completely and totally failed, Trump said. Trump says that Biden used my name today to try to further divide America. While Biden indirectly blamed Trump for the insurrection and referred to the former president multiple times during the speech, he did not call out Trump by name. Yes, exactly, Chris Cillizza. The statement further reiterated Trump's claim that the 2020 election was rigged, pointing to the White House Select Committee investigating the January 6 attacks was not discussing the rigged presidential election of 2020, and again said the big lie was the election itself and not his claims that the result was rigged against him. It's because they don't have the answers or justifications for what happened. They got away with something, and it's leading our country's destruction, Trump claimed. They all want conversation concerning the election. Cancelled. It's done. It's over. They want it gone. They think it's the worst thing in the world. I think it's the best. I think we should be having more conversation about it, okay? Multiple legal maneuvers by Trump and his allies contesting the election. Results failed in courts. No, they didn't. They never made it to the courts across the country, including all the way up to the Supreme Court. Election results certified by each state were also deemed to be valid. The January 6th Selfie Fest was an attempt by Trump supporters to come in and air their grievances. Most of the people there did not intend to end the building, so the Hill is also giving you propaganda here. Biden gave a fiery speech on Thursday calling Trump a defeated former president on the anniversary of the Capitol attack. He's not just a former president, he's a defeated former president, Biden said. Defeated by a margin of over 7 million votes. Oh, but no, Chris Cillizza, he didn't mention Trump at all, didn't he? No, it just happens to be. That seems to be the idea surrounding that. Look at the tags. Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Trumpism, big lie, election lie, claims of 2020 election fraud. Fucking puke. Let's grab one from Insider. Psaki says, oh, maybe Trump learned something from watching Biden's January 6th anniversary speech. From Oma Sadiq. White House Press Secretary Red-Haired Bobblehead on Thursday commented on former President Trump's reaction to President Joe Biden's speech on the anniversary of January 6th Selfie Fest. Well, it looks like he saw the speech. I guess that's good news. Maybe he learned something about what it looks like to meet the moment up in the country, Psaki told reporters during a press briefing. Oh my God. Sniff the farts a little bit harder. To meet the moment where people are hurting, that they're thinking of the pain. All the people who worked in that Capitol were there a year ago, whether they were members of Congress, their staff, janitors, journalists, and to speak to who we can be and call for people's higher powers to reach that. Maybe he learned something from that. I guess we'll see. We'll circle back. Next question, please. Shortly after Biden's speech, Trump released a statement calling the president's remark political theater and just a distraction from the fact that Biden has completely and totally failed. Biden spoke from the Capitol on Thursday as he reflected on the violence that erupted in the building a year ago and commemorated the deaths of law enforcement officials. In his speech, the president criticized Trump, though he did not mention him by name, instead referring to him as the defeated former president. Biden blamed Trump for the January 6th riot and emphasized his refusal to accept that he lost the 2020 election. Let me see if I can actually get this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to or not. Because we're taking it back out of a... Shut up. So, 6:52, so we're thinking probably about this time. A video of Psaki? Yes. Yes, we have the video of Psaki here.
And on the point of the former president, he did respond to President Biden's speech and he called it, quote, political theater. What is your response?
Well, it looks like he saw the speech. I guess that's good news. Maybe he learned something about what it looks like to meet the moment in the country, to meet the moment where people are hurting.
And on the
NBC News' Kristen Welker said asked Psaki during Trump's press briefing, or Thursday's press briefing about the Biden decision not to call out Trump by name. Like, he did literally everything but say the name. There's only one president in the history of this country who fomented a selfie fest, which prompted the people walking around and aimlessly going through the velvet ropes in our nation's capital, Psaki said. I think everyone knows who he's referring to. Yeah, so why not just come out and say the name? Are you fucking serious right now? So that's what we see coming off of that. Lindsey Graham got into the news yesterday. What breathing politicization of January 6th by President Biden. I wonder if the Taliban, who now rule Afghanistan with Al-Qaeda elements present, contrary to President Biden's belief, are allowing this speech to be carried. And Mole Man hits the nail right on the head on the top comment, says that 1/6 was a terrible event. It really wasn't that terrible. The American people have largely moved past it. Today's speech was nothing more than an attempt to redirect attention from the current problems plaguing the administration: Omicron surge, inflation, Ukraine, border security, etc. Yeah, they needed January 6th too, by the way. They really did. They needed to have that. And I want to point something out that's been kind of carried around and pointed out about around social media throughout the day for the past few days. And that's really what January 6th was. When we sit down and actually look at what happened here, what January 6th wound up being. I think it's important to look at it from a pragmatic point of view. Now, what did we see? And, you know, the leftoids hate the comparison, by the way, to this. Well, we were coming out here protesting injustice. All the Trump people were out there, they were throwing a temper tantrum because they lost. Okay. We can sit down and parse out the details, all that we want here. But there is something that I want to... There are a couple differences and a couple of similarities that I want to point out to the differences. The big difference, rather, is that no matter how much CNN comes back to try to frame this back out, At the end of the speech, the Donald came out and said, "Let's march up there peacefully and let our voices be heard." There was no dog whistle there. The Donald told his people not to enter the Capitol with violence, but to stand outside the Capitol and let their voices be heard. Let the United States know how they felt about their election results. Whereas the other politicians out here, Kamala Harris, the Squad, Senate Democrats, spent the entire summer. Maxine Waters, anti-Maxine, spent the summer telling people to become more violent, be angrier. If we don't get the results that we want, if Derek Chauvin isn't convicted of first-degree murder, well, this was after the fact, obviously, but, you know, if we don't get these in, if we don't get the police change that we want, all summer here, burn it all down, burn more of it down, burn more of it down. And I want to point out a similarity to this, too. I've seen this around. I thought this was appalling at first, but then I thought about it a little bit more. And that is the fact that the politicians that were present in the Capitol on January 6th, that had spent the summer encouraging the violence, the anger, the hatred, the burning down of the neighborhoods of the little people, they didn't care what happens to Kenosha, my former hometown. They didn't care what happened to Chicago. They didn't care what happened in Atlanta. They don't care what happens in Minneapolis because they don't have to go home to them. Even Ilhan doesn't have to go home to Minneapolis. She can go home to her little private love shack in Washington, D.C. with Tim Minette. She doesn't have to go home and see the carnage that's happening in her district. She doesn't have to see any of it. She doesn't have to see a goddamn second of any of the carnage if she doesn't want to. And if she wants to go down there, she decides that it's too violent for her, she just gets in an armored car with armored Secret Service guards and leaves the area. They don't have to see any of this. But what they saw on January 6th, as much as I disavow it, as much as I don't think that the people should have done what they did, and I do think that there was FBI involvement to that, I cannot sit back and without thinking about the fact that the people, the politicians in DC, got even just the slightest little taste of the fear that those of us in small town America felt as we watched our cities being burned, as we watched our businesses being busted out. They didn't even get the full effect because they were back in the Capitol, taking the vote within a couple hours. There are businesses in Kenosha that aren't coming back. I've looked at them. We've streamed them. There are people who have either moved out of the city or gone out to the west of the interstate. West of 31, I should say, not the interstate. And there are businesses downtown that were historic buildings, places for people to go buy furniture, buy cell phones, stuff like that, that aren't coming back. So good. Good that you got a little taste of what you fomented in small town America, in my town America. I'm glad you didn't get hurt, but good that you got a little fucking taste of it. Alright. Another one from Chris Salissa. Lindsey Graham's unreal response to Joe Biden's January 6th speech. This guy was busy sniffing his own fucking farts. In the moments after President Biden concluded his speech commemorating the one-year anniversary of the January 6th Selfie Fest on the U.S. Capitol, Senator Lindsey Graham leapt at the chance to offer his own response. What a brazen politicization of January 6th by President Biden, tweeted Graham. I wonder if the Taliban, who now rule Afghanistan with Al-Qaeda element sugar present, contrary to President Biden's beliefs, are allowing this speech to be carried. Words fail. In case you forgot, as Graham appears to have, what happened on January 6th was this. A large number of people came to Washington for a Stop the Steal rally, heavily promoted by then-President Trump in support of his false contention that the 2020 election was stolen from him. Addressing the crowd that day, Trump said this: "We fight like hell, and you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore." Some portion of the crowd marched to the U.S. Capitol, led by one Ray Epps. Walked into the building, invited sometimes by police, vandalizing and terrorizing as they went. Well, vandalizing, I would not say terrorizing, because Secret Service was in there, leading people away. The January Selfie Fest was clearly political from the very start. A mob fed lies and egged on by Ray Epps. I got to correct you, Chris Cillizza. They weren't egged on by the President of the United States. They were egged on by Ray Epps and the FBI. Who knew that? January 6, 2021, Lindsey Graham. "Trump and I, sugar, we had a hell of a journey. I hate to end it this way," Graham said on the Senate floor the night of January 6, 2021. "Oh my God, sugar, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president, okay? But today, the first thing you'll see, all I can say is count me out. Enough is enough." You know who else? January 7th, 2021, Lindsey Graham. "As to yesterday, it breaks my heart that my friend, a president of a consequence, were to allow yesterday to happen, sugar," Graham said at a press conference. "And it will be a major part of his presidency. It was a self-inflicted wound. It was going too far." Yeah, see, here's the thing, Chris Cillizza. Lindsey Graham is a clout-seeking neocon who just goes after what's the most popular and most powerful thing that he can do. He always has been. That's not changed. And by the way, Ben, that is former partner, because I'll be changing the links over the weekend here. But yes, as of this week, that she is former partner. Thanks, Keswick, for the view, by the way. Stick around. We'll be reading the live chat at the end of the show. Yeah, Lindsey Graham, he's nothing but another neocon warmonger who is just going to latch on to whoever's going to give him the most power. And right now, the populist swell is back in Washington, D.C., and the MAGA people think that they're going to take 2022 and 2024, so he's hitching that fucking wagon right to the MAGA people, so he can fulfill his dream of going out and bombing more brown kids in the Middle East. From the Daily Mail. More warmonger and warhawk people who just want to go out and bomb a bunch more brown kids. Liz and Dick Cheney stand alone as the only two Republicans in the chamber during Pelosi's moment of silence. Former VP tears into GOP leaders for their response to January 6th and kicking his daughter out. This should actually go over here. From Jeff Earl, Deputy U.S. Political Editor for DailyMail.com. GOP Rep Liz Cheney and her father, former Vice President and noted brown kid killer, Dick, were the only two Republicans standing in the House chamber when Speaker Pelosi held a moment of silence for the first anniversary of January the 6th. Pelosi announced in the moment of silence as one of a series of events to mark the anniversary days in advance and had asked lawmakers to tell her office that if they planned to attend. But when it came time for the moment at noon, on Thursday, Cheney, a member of the House Select Committee probing January 6th, didn't have much company on her side of the aisle. The 80-year-old Cheney served as a member of the House leadership before serving as the vice president to George W. Bush. He stood next to his daughter on the otherwise abandoned right side of the aisle during the moment of silence. Good. Good. I wouldn't want to be seen with you guys either. And in fact, Dick and Liz, you should probably just go to the other side of the aisle at this point. Cheney, who served as the chair of the GOP conference and as a party whip when he was in the House, took a shot at party leaders who have sidelined his daughter and said that he doesn't recognize today's Republican Party. What's happened, you guys? What's happened? The Republican Party wants to work for the people, and they don't want to go to war and spread Christianity around the Middle East. What's happened to this Republican Party? I came into this Republican Party, and I served as leadership on this Republican Party after shooting a guy on a hunting trip for the ideals of going to war in the Middle East. What happened to this Republican Party? he was forced to give up, let's see. He was forced to give up her own, what? What are you saying, The Hill? Or, I'm sorry, the Daily Mail. He was forced to give up her own leadership post after she voted. She was forced to give up her own. There we go. There's supposed to be an S here. She was forced to give up her own leadership post after she voted to impeach Trump on January 6th. They were talking about both Dick and Liz in this paragraph. That's why I was so confused by this. It's not leadership that resembles any of the folks I knew when I was here for 10 years. They don't even want to go to war anymore, he told reporters in the Capitol. He also criticized the party for the handling of the events after the Capitol Selfie Fest and their failure to defend the Constitution. So, yeah. And then she's going to be done from Wyoming too, which is good. And here are the two of them together as children in Saudi Arabia shudder.
I just go back.
Oh, really?
Mr. Vice President, any parting words from you, sir?
I'm very proud of Liz.
I'm very proud of Liz. She stands for the ideals of going and bombing kids. I'm very proud of that. We need to kill more of those idiot brown people in the Middle East so we can get more oil out of them.
I just go back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Steve Dallas. At least he didn't shoot anybody. All right, let's grab one from Axios. Pelosi. January 6th was as if somebody in the White House dropped a bomb on Congress. From Jacob Rees. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said that the January 6th Selfie Fest was as if somebody dropped a bomb in Congress, according to experts, of an NBC interview that will air later. Pelosi has been unsparing in her criticism of the former president, indicating last month that she blamed him for the Capitol Selfie Fest and saying that she would never forgive him. Yeah, nobody cares. President Biden echoed much of her previous sentiments in a speech marking the first anniversary of the attack, where he squarely blamed Trump for the deadly selfie fest. The House Speaker praised Biden's remarks. Well, of course, they're on the same side, adding that it was a wake-up call to some in our country of how close we came to a catastrophe for our democracy that day. The visuals of what's happening outside the Capitol, it breaks your heart, Pelosi told NBC's Nightly News. Yeah, I can't even say that because that will end my YouTube career right then and there.
Without the council.
Kamala Harris likens the January 6th to the Pearl Harbor 9/11 in an anniversary speech. From Alex Schemmel. Well, we knew that we were all only one step away from that happening anyway, so I'm not surprised. In a speech Thursday morning, Vice President Harris likened the events of the Selfie Fest to the U.S. Capitol, or on the Capitol rather, to Pearl Harbor 9/11. Certain dates echo through history, including dates that instantly remind all who lived through them, where they were, and what they were doing when our democracy came under assault. Harris began her speech. Dates that occupy not only a place on our calendars, but a place in our collective memory. December 7th, 1941. September 11th, 2001. January 6th, 2021. Both Harris and President Biden gave speeches Thursday on the anniversary of the chaotic event, which erupted during a political protest over the results of the 2020 presidential election. Certain people attending the protest attacked police and forcibly entered the U.S. Capitol in violation of federal law. Yeah, a misdemeanor. Harris, who was vice president-elect and a sitting U.S. senator on January 6, described the events as lawless, violent, and chaotic during her speech. Well, maybe you should hide the evidence against these people and lock them away for extra time because California needs workers to fight the wildfires. How long is this speech? 8 minutes.
Throughout history, including...
Yeah, we're not going to watch that. Fuck that. On January 6th, we saw what our nation would look like if the forces who seek to dismantle our democracy are successful, Harris said. Harris then recounted being asked by young people about the state of our democracy, telling them in response, January 6th reflects the dual nature of democracy, its fragility, and its strength. You see, the strength of democracy is the rule of law. The strength of democracy... No, it's not. The rule of law doesn't matter in the strength of democracy because with the rule of law, you can just do whatever 50% plus one person say, whether or not it's enshrined in a constitution or not. 50% plus one person wants to go genocide the other 50% minus one person. In a direct democracy, that's legal. That's why we have a republic, bound by a constitution. The strength of democracy is that everyone should be treated equally, that elections should be free and fair, and corruption should be given no quarter. The strength of democracy is that it empowers the people. And the fragility of democracy is this, that if we're not vigilant, if we do not defend it, the democracy simply will not stand. It will falter and fail. Well, that's what it was that she had to say. But remember, what happened on January 6th, where only one of the protesters died, was worse than 9/11. From the Blaze, Senator Cruz says that when he described January 6th as a violent terrorist attack on the Capitol, his phrasing was sloppy and he was referring to those who assaulted police. No, he got caught and he realized that he was going to lose support in Texas if he didn't walk his shit back, is what happened. That's actually what happened. He meant what he said when he said it because he thought that was going to be the most popular position at the time. When it wound up not being the most popular position, now he's sitting back here trying to walk it back. From Alex Nitzberg. He's another one that just hitches his wagon to whatever's going to get him the most power. Just like Lindsey Graham. Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas says that when he described January 6, 2021 as a violent terrorist attack on the Capitol, he was referring to the individuals who attacked law enforcement officers. Cruz on Wednesday noted the upcoming January 6th anniversary, describing it as a violent terrorist attack on the Capitol, where we saw the men and women of law enforcement demonstrate incredible courage, incredible bravery, risk their lives to defend the men and women who serve in this Capitol. The conservative senator noted that he believes anyone who assaults a law enforcement officer should go to jail for a very long time. Nope. During an interview on Thursday night's episode of Fucker Carlson Tonight, Cruz described his phrasing as sloppy and dumb. He said he was referring to those who perpetrated the attacks against law enforcement and that for a decade, I've referred to people who violently assault police officers as terrorists. Carlson told the senator he didn't believe him. And I mean that with respect, because I have such respect for your acuity and precision, and I've seen it on display, Carlson said. Cruz said, it was a mistake to use the word yesterday because the Democrats and the corporate media have so politicized it. They're trying to paint everyone as a terrorist, and that's a lie. Nope, I don't believe you either. Ted Cruz, I think you just started seeing your poll number slip, so you had to come out and do damage control. What else do we have going on here? DeSantis says January 6th memorial service is going to end up being a political Charlie Foxtrot. He means clusterfuck, everyone. Clusterfuck, that's what he means.
That if this is what you said it was, why are you not charging people? So I think it's going to end up being just a politicized Charlie Foxtrot today. I don't expect anything good to come out of anything that Pelosi and the gang are doing. I don't expect anything from the corporate press to be enlightening. I think it's going to be nauseating, quite frankly, and I'm not going to do it. But I do think that if you have this January 6th committee, why do we not know some of the people who we know were really involved in orchestrating this? They got pulled off the most wanted list. Christopher Wray was asked at the under oath what FBI was involved in that, and he would not answer. the question. And so I think that this is something that has really been used for political narrative and posturing purposes. I don't think it's been effective. You know, people here in Florida, they care about inflation and they care about gas prices and education and crime and all the key issues that are so important. And that's what they talk to me about. But there is an obsession with this amongst the DC, New York journalist class. And again, I think it's because it allows them to spin a narrative that they want to spin. They did not care as much about what.
All right. And yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. It is a massive clusterfuck. Of course it is. They're coming out here, and this is going to be their fodder for the upcoming elections. You know that it is. You know that it's true. And Brian Stelter. Lead story on Fox's morning show today. All 3 hours. COVID, Biden admin's failures, maskless liberal lawmakers, Chicago schools. Lead story on all the other major morning shows, 1/6 anniversary. He goes on. Only a few brief references of 1/6 on Fox's AM show today. Generic mentions about Biden's upcoming speech. Plus this Brian Kilmeade POV. Biden wants to talk only about January 6th and blame Donald Trump because he thinks that's the only thing that he's going to get higher ratings for. And we have a cocksucker here who's sitting down and kneeling in front of Joe Biden right now. What failures? Booming economy, low unemployment, higher wages, gas prices falling. Gas prices are not falling right now. Supply chain improving. I'll take that kind of failure every day. Well, and the other side of that is they had to rise significantly in order to fall. But here's the thing that goes along with this and what Brian Stelter has to say. This is not the own that you think that it is. It's not. You have a religious obsession with what happened on January the 6th, which once again, you're going to be using off of this. But there's so much other, like, the problem with this, and there were Fox people that were critical. There are Trump people who hate Fox, who only go to Zero America News and Newsmax. I don't have an insult for them right now. They'll only go to those people because they thought that Fox was just too critical of President Trump. Whereas when you're a network, Stelter, there have been a few exceptions to this, by the way. When your network got past the torch, you went from, it was flip the switch of be critical of the administration to praise the administration. Everything that it does is perfect and everything it does is amazing. And all we can talk about is the failures of the former presidency. The 1/6 anniversary. This is not the own that you think it is, Stelter. Alright, a couple more things on January 6th, and then we'll move off the topic, finally, and get on to some other stuff. I don't think we're going to get through everything else today, but we'll see what we can do. But we still have live chat, and that is the most important part. What it is that you guys have to say, and saying thank you for you guys for coming in and watching every day. From the Hill, lawmakers discuss changes to Electoral Count Act after January 6th. From Jordan Carney. Lawmakers are quietly discussing trying to make changes to the formal counting of the Electoral College results a year after dozens of Republicans, with then-President Trump's, not his backing, challenged the outcome of the 2020 election in key states. Talks of making changes to the Electoral Count Act, an 1887 law that lays out how Congress formally counts the Electoral College vote, as they did on January 6th, are still in the early stages. But there are already signs of bipartisan support for the general idea of making reforms, even though lawmakers still need to delve into the details. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said that he views the potential of the article going back up to the top. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said that he views the potential for making changes to the law as worth discussing, opening the door to potential Republican support, as his caucus takes a hard stance against Democrats' attempts to do voting and other election legislation. Wholly aside from all of the other things they're discussing, this is something that's worth discussing, McConnell said. John Thune of South Dakota, McConnell's number 2, added that there's been some expression of interest from Senate Republicans about making changes and an acknowledgement that there are some things that could be fixed. There are several things that I think you could change if you were looking at doing it, Thune said, while cautioning that I don't think anyone's come to any conclusions. Across the Capitol, members of the January 6th Selfie Fest Committee have indicated that they could make recommendations for how to improve the law. Zoe Lofgren of California, a member of the panel and the chairwoman of the House Administration Committee, said this week that she's trying to draft bipartisan legislation. In addition, Angus King is drafting legislation to make reforms to the Electoral Count Act. A spokesperson confirmed, a spokesman for Kyrsten Sinema confirmed that she has also had discussions with her colleagues about the law. What changes could get enough support to pass both the House and Senate remain far from certain. One idea floated by multiple senators would be to make it clear that the vice president can't throw out a state's electoral college results after Trump publicly and privately urged then President Pence, or Vice President Pence rather, to use his ceremonial role of overseeing Congress's counting of the electoral college results to challenge the key results in key battleground states. Here's a crazy fucking idea. Let's not do the ceremony anymore. Let's just not have it ceremoniously done. Get the period out there where we can make grievances out there and actually have the courts take them up. Add a provision into the law that says the courts have to take up a challenge if it's there, especially if it's done by the people who have standing. That they can't just come back and kick it out to a lower court or go back and throw it out for non-standing or any other litany of ridiculous ideas off of this, and then just take the ceremony out of it. There's no need for it. They object every year, and this was nothing new. From the Daily Wire, CBS buries poll results showing most Americans of both parties think January 6th was a protest that went too far. From Megan Basham. As first reported by Fox News, CBS downplayed the findings of its own poll, asking Americans how they would characterize the events in the Capitol on January 6th. The survey asked 2,046 adults what happened at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. 80% of Republicans and 69% of Democrats described it as a protest that went too far. Even 70% of Biden voters characterized it that way. But this was not the information that CBS chose to highlight. Instead, after quickly noting people widely call it a protest that went too far, its reporting turned its focus on the more granular response to the poll conducted with YouGov. Most Americans, including most Democrats, but just a fifth of Republicans, call it an insurrection and describe it as an attempt to overturn the election and the government, wrote CBS. It then presented a graphic that showed additional answers that respondents provided, including showing that 85% of Democrats chose an insurrection when given additional options for how to describe the day, while only 21% of Republicans did. So that's the results right there. With additional options, it's an insurrection, or trying to overthrow the government, or patriotism, or defending freedom. Fox highlighted how this reporting on the poll, particularly the graphic, underplayed the feelings of most of the poll's respondents. For starters, a protest that went too far was the overwhelming favorite of the 2,046 Americans who were polled, with 76% agreeing with that characterization of January 6th. The second most popular result was trying to overturn the election and keep Donald Trump in power, with 63%. Both of those options were omitted in the graphic bolstered by CBS. Meanwhile, an insurrection, which came in a distant third with 55% of Americans, was kept in the graphic, among the others which polled even less popular. Yep, there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. And they will do whatever it takes to get the result that they want back up out of this. Of course they will. Because this is what they need. This is what they need to try to stoke fear in the hearts of soccer mom America, to try to hold on to what slim little pieces of power they have in 2022. From the Hill, let's talk a little bit of overseas stuff. Kazakhstan government resigns as demonstrators set fire to Capitol. From Lexi Lonis. Kazakhstan's government resigned on Wednesday as demonstrators set up fire to the capital in protest of rising fuel prices and the political hold of the former president, Nursultan Nazarbayev. I think that's how you pronounce that. Videos throughout the country showed protesters yelling, "Old man, go away," and gunshots were heard while the public buildings were burned in the city of Almaty, where it was reported. All cabinet members resigned in response to the outburst, but protesters still left a path of destruction. Police were seen using water cannons and stun grenades against the demonstrators. The protests were triggered by a spike in fuel prices and the 3-decade rule of Nazarbayev, who still has control over his party and is in charge of the Security Council. Current President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev was picked by Nazarbayev, Reuters noted. Calls to attack premises of civilian and military agencies are absolutely illegal. This is a crime and legal punishment may follow, Tokayev said in response to the protest, according to the Wall Street Journal. Almaty's police chief, Kanat Taymurdanov, said in a statement 120 vehicles have been burned, 500 civilians have been injured, and dozens of businesses have been destroyed. A 2-week curfew, including a ban on mass gatherings, has been implemented for the city and surrounding areas. See, this is an insurrection. A bunch of armed people coming up to the Capitol and burning the motherfucker, causing the government to step down. That is an insurrection. An idiot walking around with Nancy Pelosi's podium is not an insurrection. A guy in buffalo horns is not an insurrection. A little bit more off of this. Russia-led military alliance will send peacekeepers to protest hit Kazakhstan, Armenian PM says. From Rob Picheta, Anna Chernova, Radina Jigova, and Ivan Watson over at CNN. Peacekeepers from a Russian-led military alliance of post-Soviet states will be sent to Kazakhstan to help stabilize the country following deadly protests against a hike in fuel prices, Armenia's prime minister said on Wednesday. The Collective Security Treaty Organization, which includes Russia, Belarus, Armenia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, decided to send collective peacekeeping forces for a limited period of time in view of the threat to national security and sovereignty of the Republic of Kazakhstan, according to a statement from Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, who is chairman of the alliance. So, in all of this here, one thing we do have to double check and see what's going on here. Is Borat safe? And does he still like sex? Is it still very nice? The move allows for an appeal from Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev for help from the alliance after unrest broke out across Kazakhstan on Wednesday, including the largest city, Almaty. 8 police officers and National Guard personnel were killed in riots in different regions of the country, according to Kazakhstan's local outlet, Tengrinews.kz. It also said 317 officers and personnel were injured, citing the press service of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. In the cities of Almaty, Shymkent, and Taraz, attempts were made to attack Akamats, local administration offices, where windows and doors were broken and other materials damage was caused. Said a statement on the ministry's website, stones, sticks, gas, pepper, and Molotov cocktails were used by the mob. Protesters and riot police in Almaty on Wednesday. That's what we see with them. President Tokayev said terrorists had captured the Almaty airport, including 5 aircraft, and were battling with the military outside the city. A number of infrastructure facilities in Almaty have been damaged, Tokayev said. He accused the protesters of undermining the state system and claimed that many of them have received military training abroad. So, yeah, Russia is going to be coming in here, stepping in off of that here. Do we actually see another Soviet Union? Perhaps. I have no idea. We could ask our friend who writes in Cyrillic over here, who gave us the vor.red link over there. We could ask him. He'd probably know. From ABC News. Russian-led alliance says it will send peacekeepers to Kazakhstan over protests. From Patrick Rebel. Kazakhstan's president has appealed to Russian-led military alliance for help in quelling the mass protests gripping the Central Asian country, promising to use force to put down the unrest. President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, in a televised speech Wednesday, said he had appealed to the Collective Security Treaty Organization, a security alliance of former Soviet countries dominated by Russia, to assist Kazakhstan with suppressing the protests, which he claimed were being led by foreign terrorists. The alliance has agreed to send a joint force of peacekeepers to Kazakhstan to help restore order, according to Armenia's prime minister, which is in part the alliance. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan said the force would deploy at Kazakhstan for a limited period with a goal of stabilizing and normalizing the situation in the country. The CSTO includes Russia, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan's two neighbors, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. So we'll see what happens with that. Of course, the U.S. government and the CIA had to get involved in this. White House dismisses crazy Russian claims that U.S. is behind Kazakhstan unrest. From Callie Pattison. Now, that's dad meets teenage son for the first time in however the fuck long. As more violent protests broke out in Kazakhstan on Wednesday, the White House press secretary Jen Psaki insisted that the U.S. has nothing to do with the unrest in the former Soviet republic, calling rumors to the contrary crazy Russian claims. We're monitoring reports of protests in Kazakhstan. We support calls for calm, for protesters to explain themselves peacefully, and for authorities to exercise restraint. Next question, please. The red-haired bobblehead told reporters during her regular briefing. There are some crazy Russian claims about the U.S. being behind this. Let me just use this opportunity to convey that it's absolutely false and clearly a part of the standard Russia disinformation playbook. Oh my God, they went there. Hours earlier, Kazakhstan President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev declared a state of emergency as government buildings were attacked across the city of Almaty. Soon after, the government of Prime Minister Askar Mamin announced his resignation. But Tokayev said the ministers would remain in their roles until a new cabinet is formed, making it uncertain whether the resignation will have significant effect. So, we'll see what happens with this. And of course, they're going to come out and try to say that it's CIA. Alright, 10 minutes before we start reading live chat here, let's actually talk about the title card of this episode. Starting with Fox, Chicago Public Schools cancel classes for the third straight day as battle with teachers union continues. From Adam Sabes. The Chicago Public Schools have canceled classes on Friday, making it the third straight day that the district has canceled classes due to an ongoing feud with the teachers union over the coronavirus safety measures and the remote learning. Pedro Martinez, the chief executive officer for the Chicago Public Schools, has made the announcement on Thursday evening and told parents to plan for another day without classes unless they hear otherwise from their child's principal. You should not plan to send your child to school unless your child's principal tells you the student can come to school for in-person activities, Martinez said. Our schools are the best, safest places for students to be during the pandemic, and we're working tirelessly to get everyone back in class every day. Martinez added that the CPS is working tirelessly to get students back in the classroom. We will continue to work with CTU to resolve this situation and provide you with ongoing updates as the week continues, Martinez said. The announcement to cancel classes for the third straight day comes after Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot blasted the CTU and accused them of attempting to hold students' education hostage. I will not allow the Chicago Teachers Union to take our children hostage. I will not allow them to compromise the future of this generation of CPS students. That is not going to happen, Lightfoot said during a Wednesday night press conference. Yeah, see, Lori, you found this out with the police union, and I applaud you for not going back after them. But standing up to the union in Chicago, in mob-run Chicago, is probably not good for your health. I'm just saying. I understand you're the mayor, and that's cool. and everything. You're supposed to be the boss of everything here, but yeah, there are people above you in Chicago. I don't want to say much more of that, but there are people above you. From Politico, Chicago Mayor, Teachers Union made us a laughingstock. From Shia Kapos and Nick Nidzwadek. To understand the crisis that shuttered Chicago public schools this week, it helps to know the key ingredient. A Democratic mayor and one of the city's most powerful labor groups can't stand each other. An increasingly toxic relationship between the CTU and Mayor Lightfoot has been waiting to explode for months, if not years. The Omicron variant has turned out to be the spark. There's so many things that we could partner on, Lightfoot said in an interview Wednesday about her latest conflict with the union, whose members overwhelmingly voted late Tuesday not to return to in-person teaching. Instead, they chose an illegal, unilateral action that throws the whole system into chaos and makes us a laughingstock all across the country. Chicago is the nation's largest district to close, and the only major one shuttered by a labor dispute. It's unclear if the union's move will inspire educators elsewhere to follow suit, as they see their own members catch the virus, which has already triggered smaller shutdowns, but many elected Democrats across the country who backed closures early in the pandemic are insisting that K-12 schools must stay open during the Ermagerd surge. A repositioning that has created friction with teachers' unions as part of its a key part of its constituency. For now, the hard-nosed teachers' unions in New York, Los Angeles, Washington, and Sacramento aren't demanding school closures the way CTU is. The powerful California Teachers Association issued a statement with Governor Newsom last month pledging to keep our classrooms open in a state where campuses were shut down by the pandemic longer than almost anywhere in the nation. Democratic leaders from Joe Biden to Eric Adams are giving greater voice to the social and academic woes suffered by student learning at home and recognizing that parents have little patience for reverting back to online classes. No, that's not what's happening. What's happening is that the CTU doesn't want to drive across Chicago traffic and potentially get shot for being in the wrong neighborhoods at the wrong time of day, coming in early, staying late, etc. They don't want to do that anymore. But the educators in all these other cities are looking at this and seeing to themselves, shit. If these kids are going to Zoom classes here, they're going to see what we're teaching. We've tried so hard to keep them out of the process, to keep them out of the school board meetings so we can teach what we want. Whatever woke bullshit we want. Shit, they're going to see what we're teaching. We can't do this. We need to have them in the classroom, otherwise they won't get indoctrinated the way we want. They might grow up and vote Republican if we don't tell them how evil Republicans are. Shit. Shit. Okay, let's keep the classrooms open, guys. Everything stay open. And Chicago is throwing a wrench into that. Oh, this will be fun here. Lightfoot City is considering legal action against teachers' union in COVID policy standoff. From no author given. As a standoff continues in Chicago public schools and teachers over the COVID safety protocols, Mayor Deadfoot announced that the city has filed an unfair labor practices complaint over a union vote to switch to remote learning. The mayor made the announcement during a press conference Wednesday, saying that while the city would prefer to reach an agreement with the teachers and get them back in the classrooms, that they are considering all options. "We have taken some action in that direction," she said. "We'd rather resolve this at the bargaining table. We're considering all of our options, and we'll make a determination shortly as to what levers we're going to pull, depending on whether or not to make significant progress at the bargaining table." Lightfoot's comments come as CPS canceled classes for the second consecutive day. The move follows a vote by the CTU to switch back to remote learning, a decision that Lightfoot has called a legal work stoppage in multiple press conferences. The union says that members were locked out of email and other accounts, and they were prevented from logging into online learning systems after Tuesday's vote. CPS officials have repeatedly said they do not view a return to full remote learning as necessary, even with the surge in the pinko-pox cases caused by the oh my god variant, and that they prefer a targeted approach to the strategy. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. City Hall versus the Mob 3.0 in Chicago. Do you all have your popcorn? Because you should probably get some popcorn here. Alright. I thought this was kind of funny, so we'll go over this one for just a bit. Biden once again uses fake Oval Office and his play school desk. From Joseph Curl. President Biden on Monday once again used his fake Oval Office for a televised speech, this time using a green screen behind his desk to show a snowy wonderland that mirrored what was happening in Washington, D.C. Biden has used his phony office located across the parking lot on the Eisenhower Office Building, formerly the old Executive Office Building, and before that known as State, War, and Navy Building, in the past, but as before, its use drew criticisms. Tim Murtaugh, the former communications director for the former president, took to Twitter to ponder why he uses it. Has there been an explanation for why they built a fake White House set for the Biden across the street from the real White House? The other day, there were shipping containers outside the window. Today, it's a winter wonderland. Just bizarre and phony, he wrote. When Biden uses the office, his tech people project a different background scene, as Breitbart News House reporter Charlie Spearing noted in October. The digital projection at the window of Biden's White House set shows flowers in bloom in the Rose Garden. And Build Back Bullshit. Stephen Miller, who served in Trump's administration, is now one of his senior advisors, offered an explanation back then. The reason Biden used this bizarre virtual set is not for an actual room like the East Room, Cabinet, Oval, Roosevelt, Sit Room, etc. is because it allows him to read from a script directly from a face-on monitor and without teleprompter glass that can be seen on camera, he wrote on Twitter. Oh, we lost connection for just a second. That's weird. That's lame. When the story first emerged, the New York Post in October mocked Biden over his fake Oval Office and play school desk. So yeah, and there are a couple different reasons for the reason that he's using it. It's still bizarre, by the way, and it's bizarre that it's the first time that he's done this, but, you know, most popular president, so they've got to get all the press out there. They've got to get everybody out there snapping pictures and saying how everything that he does is so historic. And that's a part of the reason that they're doing it, is because it's a stage in an auditorium where they can cram more reporters in and possibly socially distance them a little bit more. But yes, Miller also has some other good insight to this as well. With the window in the background, you can't see the teleprompter that's feeding him his lines that he can't remember anyway, and he can't read off the screen anyway. And with the green screen sitting up behind the window in the fake office, they can cover up for the fact that the teleprompter image is there. It actually... the green and the green, I'm sure the lettering on the teleprompter is green too, so the green and the green screen covers all that up. There are actual reasons for why they're doing it. It still sucks, but there are actual reasons for why they're doing it. All right, another resignation here. How much more do you think we can do here? I think we're going to go up to this ABC article. No, we're going to go up to this one because I wanted to do this one. This one came across my table last night. So we'll finish up these ones and we'll do live chat for the day. From Politico, Rep. Brenda Lawrence becomes the 25th House Democrat to retire. And by the way, if you're just lurking, get those messages in because it is time to come back and say thank you to everybody who chatted in the live chat throughout the week. I didn't forget about you guys last week. I just forgot my notebook. But we will make sure that, and especially if it is sufficiently stupid, spicy, or bigoted, it will get read on the air because it will raise the intellectual level of the program. Brenda Lawrence becomes 25th House Democrat to retire. From Sarah Ferris. Rep. Brenda Lawrence announced Tuesday she would not seek re-election to her Detroit area district, becoming the 25th House Democrat to retire this cycle. The four-term Michigan lawmaker had climbed the ranks of powerful House Appropriations Panel as well as Congressional Black Caucus. Since arriving in the Capitol in 2015, she also narrowly lost an election for a caucus-wide leadership election 2 years ago, so her decision to step aside, first reported by the Detroit News, surprised some of her colleagues. Today, after reflecting on my journey, and oh my goodness, what a journey, and having conversations with my family, I'm announcing that I will not be seeking re-election to Congress, Lawrence said in a video to supporters on Tuesday night. But the former mayor of Southfield, Michigan, has raised some suspicion that she wouldn't run again after the state's new congressional map ditched its two minority districts, virtually eliminating her current seat. In the reshuffle, Lawrence's hometown of Southfield has been redrawn into a district that's now represented by Debbie Dingell. While Dingell said she would seek a new district in Ann Arbor, Lawrence has privately told colleagues she wasn't certain about running in Dingell's previous district, complaining about how the map divided the majority black neighborhoods. According to Democratic sources, Lawrence is the only black member of Michigan's congressional delegation. Well, we'll see what's happening here. And yeah, I mean, we're looking at very, very safe seats resigning too, so we'll see what happens and where that goes, and we will see how this shakes out coming up in November. From Fox News, Ralph Northam blames Virginia drivers for getting stranded on I-95. People need to pay attention. From Courtney O'Brien, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam took heat Wednesday after blaming thousands of drivers for being on the road, only to be left stranded on Interstate 95 due to heavy snowfall that crippled snow removal crews. We gave warnings. People need to pay attention to those warnings. And the less people see that are on the highways when those storms hit, the better, Northam told the Washington Post. A sitting senator, Tim Kaine, was among the stranded drivers on Tuesday. He documented his nightmarish commute on Twitter, reaching the Capitol after 27 hours. Northam and the Virginia Department of Transportation have been accused of failing to prepare the roads for the upcoming onslaught of snow, while some of whom were stuck in the winter traffic hit the governor and the agency for not responding fast enough following the disaster. I've contacted the governor. He finally came out this morning and he said he has shelters opening up. It's a day late and a dollar short, Father Joseph Catalano, who got stuck in the traffic after taking his family on a post-Christmas trip to Disney World, said. But Northam did not seem to be keen on accepting accountability, and when the governor pointed fingers at Virginia drivers, his critics shamed him and started counting down the hours until he hands over the keys to the governor's mansion. Glenn Youngkin, who defeated McAuliffe in November's gubernatorial election, will be sworn into office on January 15th. And there you go. That's perfect. Charlie Spearing tweets out, Ralph Northam blames the drivers for getting on I-95. No apologies for obvious government failure. We gave warnings that people need to pay attention to these warnings, and the less people that are on the highways when the storms hit, the better. And David Harsan Yi quote tweets back out, if drivers don't listen, they will be kept comfortable, resuscitated if that's what the family desires, and then a discussion about will ensue. That is perfect. Here's reality for you guys. You should plan ahead, no matter what. There was a particular instance when I was still working in Madison, where a blizzard was popping up overnight. The roads were just starting to get bad when I was heading home from work that night, the night before. And I was supposed to be back to work at 5 o'clock the next morning, because we opened at 5 at the time. And I thought about it, and I considered it and realized the fact that if I were to drive home that night, it would be a good 2 hours on the road that night. In fact, as soon as I felt the rear end slip a little bit coming back out of this, I got onto the next exit, got off the highway, and went over, and I found a hotel for that night. Because, it was 8 o'clock at night, it would be 10 before I got home, I'd come back on a few hours of sleep, and then have to drive in the blizzard that was still going on when I got up the next morning. It didn't stop until probably about 10 o'clock the next morning. And be back to work. So I said, the fuck with it. For $50, I'll just crash in a hotel bed, watch some Netflix, and then deal with it the next day. So I did that. There are certain preparations you can take to do this. And they should have. But the government that tells you that they're going to solve all your problems should also be right there ready to go back and help and deploy things when you do get a big situation like this. This shouldn't be a 27-hour thing. And in fact, in my state, it wouldn't have been a 27-hour thing. All right. Macron is doing the same thing Biden is, but he's catching more heat from it. Francis Macron sparks outrage as he vows to annoy the unvaccinated. From Sylvia Amaro. French President Emmanuel Macron has sparked new criticism from his political opponents after saying he will make life difficult for those citizens who refuse a COVID vaccine. I am not for bothering the French. I rant all day at the administration when it blocks them while they're the unvaccinated. I really want to hassle them. And so we will continue to do it, okay, until the end, the French leader said in an interview with La Parisienne, published Tuesday night, according to CNBC's translation. Macron used the French word "emmerder" in an interview with La Parisienne, which can be roughly translated to hassle or annoy, or would be close to the phrase piss off. His comments coincided with the parliamentary discussions over COVID passes, documents that state whether someone has been vaccinated, which are used to attend certain events, a bill preventing the unvaccinated from entering the most public spaces and transport, was meant to be approved this week, but has been postponed after death threats on some lawmakers. Macron's words led different political leaders to criticize the incumbent president, with elections due in the spring. Le Pen, the head of the anti-immigration Rassemblement National, said via Twitter, "This vulgarity and this violence of the president of the Republic prove that he never considered himself the president of all the French people." These are your government officials. From ABC, of course, supply and demand come into play off of this. Walmart and Kroger raise at-home COVID test prices after agreement with White House expires. From Ben Gittleson and Julia Jacobo. Major retailers have increased the price of at-home Pinko fucking pox tests now that an agreement with the White House to sell them at fixed price has expired. In September, Walmart, Kroger, and Amazon agreed to sell the 2-pack boxes of at-home rapid antigen tests for $14 for 3 months amid a surge of positive cases with the Delta and the Ermagerd variants. The agreement has since expired, according to a White House official. Walmart is now charging $19.88 per box. I think they should drop that $5. Where available, Kroger has raised the price to $23.99. The price is currently unavailable on Amazon's website. Despite the price hike, the at-home tests remain sold out both online and in stores across the country. When asked Wednesday whether the Brandon administration is currently in talks with retailers to bring the price of tests back down, White House Press Secretary Red-Haired Bobblehead declined to say. I can't give you any updates on this conversations, and we'll circle back. Next question, please. Instead, she pointed to other steps the admin is taking to make more tests available, including purchasing 500 million tests at $23.99 a box to distribute to the Americans for free, and requiring insurance companies to reimburse Americans for the tests starting next week. Supply and demand. It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? That's another good reason not to get one of these stupid fucking tests. Alright, and the last one that we're going to do with this, before we head out of here for the day and read the live chat, and the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat. Thank you once again in advance, everybody. The COVID world. This is not a green check verified newspaper, but it's something that's at least worth discussing. So do take it with the appropriate grain of salt before we get into this. The COVID world, because everyone's story should be heard. Vaccinated women are now lying about their vax status as more men see them as an infertility risk. This is a no author given. Do we start here in the bold? Maybe, yes. Yeah, we'll start in the bold. Everyone was told that those who did not get the jab would regret it, but now it seems that the opposite is true. In a startling reversal, women who have had the pinko-pox vaccine are being shunned in the dating scene by potential partners due to issues with possible birth defects and infertility. Women in New York have started lying about their vaccination status because of widespread perception among men that they're infertile or will bear children with birth defects, one man who wants to remain anonymous said. In clubs, they claim that they're not vaxxed. They say things like, "Oh, COVID is bullshit," or "I don't want to try this new experimental shot." However, after going out with them several times, the women finally admit that they took the vax and watched as potential husbands leave them almost on the spot. The person went on to say that at least 2 separate women asked him why he would break off relations with them over something like the jab, and he told them, "I don't want defective children, and I won't get closer to a girl who lied to my face from the start." Reports of women who've been vaccinated experiencing birth defects are skyrocketing across the world. A very early theory raised by many respected doctors was that the mRNA vaccine would interfere with a protein called syncytin-1, which is crucial in pregnancy. Unfortunately, many women trusted the science from the MSM and are reaping the consequences of their government's actions in amplifying propaganda and silencing dissenting voices. As a reminder, the kind of propaganda that was being pushed at the time, Full Fact published a fact check categorically denying that the vaccine caused any kind of problems with pregnancy before any long-term studies were done in question. So, once again, this goes on the purebloods. And the last thing that I'll say with this, of course, this is not green check verified. NewsGuard didn't verify this article, because they wouldn't verify something like this. This is worth having the discussion about and looking further into. I cannot tell you if this is accurate. I cannot tell you if there is an effect with syncytin-1 or not. But it's at least definitely worth looking into, especially if you are looking to go and start a family. It's something to definitely come back and consider. At the time when this becomes a thing for you. I know that there are reports on the 4chan boards and everything else about unvaccinated sperm is going up 1,500% in value and all this and the next thing. So it does appear that there is some sort of concern with this going on along the mainstream the news won't tell you about. I can't tell you what it is. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biologist. But what I can tell you is that I've chosen not to at this point. But if you choose to get it and you want me to take you to your appointment so you can go and get it because you can't get there, let me know. It should be your personal choice, no matter what. But that's what we see off that. Alright, and with that, it's live chat time. It's time to go back, and it's been a little bit of a slow live chat, except for the people with Cyrillic lettering in their names. But let's come back and let's have a look and see what happened throughout the week as you guys get your last minute messages in here. On Monday, it's been a bit of a slow week too. I know that's part of that is because we had no consistency for the week. I'm jet lagged as fuck right now. So we'll see if we can get that fixed off of this. But on Monday, we had Ron Helton, KDZ, Arvolt, 80s Kid was here from across the pond, Chilaga 1984, Random Randy, and Seawall 728. On Tuesday, we had Ron Helton, KDZ, Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru, Arvolt, Chaos Soul, Femwin, who was not appreciative of me of calling Sunny Hostin a cunt, even though she is a cunt, Random Randy, and Marie Maybe Golay. Wednesday brought us Life to the Max, Ron Helton, Random Randy, Silent Caster, Marie Maybe Golay, Arvolt, Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru, Chilaga 1984, and MK Ultra. yesterday brought us Quest Fanning and Ron Helton. Katie said, beat me up, Mr. Scott. Congratulations once again to finding out your sister. I hope you guys are spending a bunch of time together for the years lost, dude. That's awesome still. Random Randy, Arvolt, Spartan, Badalay, and MK Ultra rounded out yesterday. Today, slow day a little bit, but even on slow days, everybody gets the recognition for coming in and hanging out with us for the day. What do we got here? What do we got going on here? Ron Helton, good morning, J. Edgar, and fellow Ed Heads. No fire joke today. Randy says, can't stop, won't stop. Arvolt is lurking. Beppa Snimitiaka says, Vun Rint. Skoff Kgzi says, Neasunka.site. Quest Fanning is here. Good morning. It's bright and sunny out there today. And all the light reflecting off the snow helps alleviate some of the studio lights. Ben Wild is here. You know what January 6th was to me? Thursday. Marie says, largest data collection, short of the stimulus. We're going to have to actually cut the Instagram feed because we're running out of battery over there. So let's get that down.
Without the council and without you.
Ben Wild says, you mean the same politicians inciting the riots that hid under the desk when the chickens came home to roost? Yes. Keswick is here, says, who the fuck is Elaine? Elaine was my co-host up until this past week. She has been gone for 6 months on a 2-month hiatus because her brother had moved in with her and her family. Just recently got married too, but yes, we are going to move on in a different direction from her. So over the weekend, I will be fixing the links from the Nightbot, so yeah. Yeah, it's just been so busy. I used to, you know, sometimes it takes a while to get some of these projects up and done, but I will have everything done ready for Zed Redemption, or Ed Zed Redemption. I still don't know which order I want to put that in, damn it. Ed Zed Redemption, coming up on Monday at 5:30. Ben says, I mean, it's true, Ed does want to slip AOC some swollen bratwurst protein. If he gets the chance, all I can say is, Ed, use a ball gag on the bitch so we don't have to listen to her. Nice. Like I said, sufficiently spicy and bigoted. Gets read on the air. Ben says, remember when Dems told us that Dick Cheney was the Antichrist and a war criminal? I mean, it wasn't that long ago. No, it was all the way back in 2015. That clip has so many broken hips in it. Ben Wild says, you think Pelosi wears Depends? That would explain some of her fashion decisions. There's no way she doesn't leak like an 80-year faucet. The O-rings just wear out. Ben Wild says, yeah, I remember the Taliban took a break to take a selfie as the planes hit the tower. Well, that would be, you could see something like that. I mean, digital cameras were just coming out at the time. We were just learning what selfies were. Ben says, please don't do that. That's 8 minutes of my life I don't have. Silent Caster is here. Says she's probably just giggling the whole time. Ben points out a good point. Ever notice that there's yelling and shouting Kamala and maniacally laughing Kamala and nothing in between? You know what that's called? Bipolar personality. Okay, Charlemagne. No, look here, Charlemagne. Joe Biden is the president, and I'm Kamala Harris, and I'm the vice president, okay? Don't you be talking like no Republican, okay? Mm-mm. Katie Zed is here, lurking today. Yirvergara Aigabada says VOR.red. Plus says, I'm not seeing the spammer on the YouTube side. McConnell Smuggles Coke is here. Says a little show feet would solve much of the world's problems. Plus loves the lo-fi Star Wars music. Yeah, I like it too, actually, a lot. Quest says Lightfoot equals heavy boot. Why is he doing it? Better lighting. Well, there are a few reasons as to why he's doing the play set. I'm guessing at some point they're just going to put a non-seasonal background just to mess with people. Put the fucking Holocaust back there. Quest says, gonna put this out there early. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and thanks as always for the show. Thank you. Did you see the lady on Twitter? Yeah, I love that lady. Did you see the lady on Twitter who was complaining about Youngkin's storm response? Someone informed her that Northam is still the governor, and she replied something like, "Oh, Northam is sending out additional help. Good job." The French bothering the French. I like it. Says boom.ngo. Andy Nyo! There we go. Quest says, I have my doubts about this story. There are plenty of NPC men in New York City. Yeah, and a lot of them are probably looking not to go start families either. They just want to go get their fucking nut off and be done with it. And 3 MMA Kabbalah says Woon.fyi, and that will round it out for the day. Oh, where's my outro music? Oh, got the hiccups. Slow day today. Slow week this week. Let's see if we can get those numbers back up. Make you a better morning show so you guys come and tell your friends about it. That's what we need to do. I need to make you a better morning show. That's what we need to do. All right, but on that, we're going to head out of here. Oh, Chilaga's here. Last minute. He's late, but he's here. Welcome, Chilaga. With that, we're going to head out of here for the day. We're going to come back. I got to get myself off to work, and you guys have to get off to start with the rest of your days. Daily Ignoramus starting in 35 minutes. Go back and hang out with him. It's a great time. It's going to be a great time as well. One of my favorite people in the world, so definitely go and check him out. We'll be back here on Monday for more Contemporary. No plans for a weekend stream right now because I don't know how the end of my week is going to go, and if I have to stay late at work on Saturday as well, because it's going to be warm out and I can get some work done. But come back and join us here on Contemporary. Come back and join us for the Monday morning show, and then the official premiere of the Monday night show, Ed Zed Redemption, 5:30 Central Time. Come back and join us for that. We've got a lot of stuff to go over, the January 6th response, the Kazakhstan stuff, the COVID stuff, and everything else to go with that. Looking forward to see you guys here. We'll see you then. And until next time, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.